like clock. I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop.
Alright guys, in a couple of days chapter 56 actually does come out, which is absolutely insane to talk about. Because it seems like just yesterday chapter 55 actually just came, and I think the Boruto anime make the wait a little bit shorter. But regardless, I do want to kind of talk about an interesting topic in this video, and it's pretty much what's stopping Naruto and Sasuke from just going to Code's dimension and actually capturing the 10 tails. Now specifically, of course, we understand that it's not Code's dimension, but you guys understand the point. But I think obviously as of right now, the main thing that's actually stopping Naruto and Sasuke from getting the 10 tails right now would possibly be because they're extremely tired. Of course, they just fought against the strongest character that we've ever really seen in the whole Naruto series, so of course they're going to potentially have to wait a couple of days and even more, just because of the sheer fact that Naruto doesn't necessarily have the 9 tails, so he can't necessarily heal as fast as he used to. So of course, let's just say like a week. But after that week, what's actually stopping Naruto and Sasuke from then going to actually capture the 10 tails? As of right now, Code is going to be the big villain that's going to be opposing Naruto, Sasuke, Boruto, and Kawaki. But as of right now, I don't necessarily know exactly how strong he's actually going to be, and I feel like if they can actually take the 10 tails right now, that'll pretty much stop Code from his plan, which is of course planting a god tree on Earth and then actually eating the chakra fruit. Now of course that doesn't necessarily completely end Code's plan. I think that they'd eventually have to kill Code, but one of the best things that they could possibly do as of right now is actually capture the 10 tails. And of course capturing the 10 tails could possibly just come along with actually killing Code. Now of course the next question is going to be, how strong is Code? Now, me personally, I don't necessarily think Code's going to be absolutely insane. Of course, we recently found out that Code had the karma suit, which is actually insane. Before any of that, though, I even did a tier list on the Kado organization on my second channel. I talked about how I think that Code could potentially be on the level of Naruto and Sasuke. Now, that's not to say that I think Code is going to be able to beat either Naruto or Sasuke. Now, of course, in that particular situation, we were talking about Naruto and Sasuke, and the gods were Naruto had Kurama and Sasuke had the Rinnegan. So, of course, at this particular point, we could potentially assume that Code, from what I thought before, as of right now, we don't necessarily know exactly how strong Code is, but from what I thought before, Code could potentially be stronger than Sasuke and Naruto. But if Sasuke and Naruto would have both head to that dimension, I strongly doubt Code would be able to take on both Naruto and Sasuke. And of course, because of the travel, you probably need Boruto to actually open up a portal for Naruto and Sasuke to get there. I strongly doubt Code would be able to beat Boruto, Naruto, and Sasuke. Now, one of the things that the Boruto manga did make it absolutely clear is the fact that they are going to eventually have to fight against Code. Code is actually going to be out for revenge. Now, I don't necessarily know exactly how fast he's going to actually be out for revenge, but one thing that we do actually know right now is the fact that they are going to fight Code eventually. And I think fighting Code as soon as possible would probably be very advantageous to especially Naruto and Sasuke, because characters are definitely liable to grow. For example, if Naruto and Sasuke feel like they're in the clear down, they rest for like, I don't know, a couple of months, even to like a year, or even like after the time skip they fight against Code, that right there could potentially be detrimental. Because if you guys do recall, there's a guy by the name of Naruto that could have possibly been captured by the Akatsuki when he was 13 years old. They decided to wait 3 years after the time skip, and lo and behold, Naruto was like a top 5 shinobi out of nowhere. Now obviously that was like an unprecedented growth from Naruto, but regardless, I believe the point still stands. Code as of right now, as I said, is not necessarily strong enough in my opinion to actually take on Naruto and Sasuke at the same time. And I think eventually, if he does tend to actually grow with the karma seal, or he gets some other sort of power, or some other sort of power boost from the 10 tails, something like that, I have no idea, then he could potentially be strong enough to take down Naruto and Sasuke at this particular level. Because of course, Naruto does not have karma and Sasuke does not have the Rinnegan as right now. Of course, we understand that it's very possible that Sasuke gets his Rinnegan later on down the line. But now, a couple of things that they could possibly do with the 10 tails that would definitely be superbly advantageous. Of course, the power of the 10 tails. One of the things that we do understand is that the Otsutsuki clan is probably not going to let up. Just in Boruto this year, like while Boruto was around the same age, we've seen 4 different Otsutsuki members. We've seen Momoshiki, Kinshiki, Urishiki, and Isshiki Otsutsuki. I'm pretty sure that there are definitely going to be other Otsutsuki members out there that are even potentially stronger than Isshiki Otsutsuki himself, that will look to actually take over this planet, or actually plant a god tree on Earth. And of course, if Naruto and Sasuke want to potentially fight against that character, of course the acquisition of the 10 tails helping Naruto and Sasuke out, potentially under the genjutsu of Sasuke, would definitely be a very big help. Now, another big thing is, of course, not necessarily leaving a 10 tails unattended. Of course, if it's under the guise of Code, of course, that right there is a completely different story. We have to finish off Code first. But hypothetically, if we do actually defeat Code, and then there's just a 10 tails in this dimension, potentially close to our dimension, that right there would definitely be a very dangerous thing. When Otsutsuki members come to Earth, one of their main objectives is to actually obtain the tail beast, so they can actually create the 10 tails so then they could actually plant the 10 tails and create a god tree. Now if there's already a 10 tails like just ready to be planted on Earth, that would pretty much eliminate a whole steps for Otsutsuki members that do try to invade Earth. Now if Naruto and Sasuke could actually capture that 10 tails and potentially have it in custody, or potentially even have people rotating through that dimension and guarding the 10 tails, that right there would just be a very smart thing to do for insurance purposes. Now the obvious question is going to be, how can they actually capture the 10 tails? Now I've already talked about how there could possibly be people rotating in between that dimension actually guarding the 10 tails, like how Isshiki Otsutsuki did with Code. I personally think that right there would probably be like the last option, because of course that right there doesn't necessarily guarantee any safety. For example, let's just say hypothetically a character as strong as Isshiki Otsutsuki pulled up to, like, let's say Rock Lee defending the 10 tails, that right there wouldn't necessarily be a very good thing. And of course having Naruto and Sasuke be the only people guarding the 10 tails would probably be a very disadvantageous thing to the Hidden Leaf Village as a whole, because you're taking one of your very strongest assets and just basically shifting them and throwing them to a different dimension. And of course Naruto himself, being the Hokage, would probably not necessarily be able to do such a rotational shift. So the other thing I have in mind is possibly to seal the 10 tails into somebody. Now of course, because Sasuke doesn't necessarily have the Rinnegan, it pretty much takes a very easy way to seal the 10 tails inside of Sasuke away. One of the things that we did see from the 4th Great Shinobi War is when Madara and Obito had the Rinnegan, they just did a hand seal and the 10 tails automatically sealed itself inside of that person. One of the things that we also know is the fact that the 10 tails Jinchuriki also has to have a very strong will. So I can't necessarily see the 10 tails being sealed to a character like Denki, or for example, I don't even see the 10 tails being sealed into a character like Sarada as of right now, potentially in the future, but as of right now, that seems like an absolute negative. At this particular point, the only people that I could possibly see the 10 tails being sealed into is Naruto, Sasuke, or potentially another high profile Jonin, even potentially Orochimaru, even though that right there possibly wouldn't necessarily be the best idea, but you guys get my drift. Now specifically, the way to actually seal the 10 tails into someone could possibly be the same seal that actually sealed the 9 tails into Naruto, even though that right there isn't necessarily a perfect science. I'll explain that in a bit. But of course the 8 trigram seal. The 8 trigram seal is said to be one of the most strongest seals, and I think the 8 trigram seal done by Naruto could potentially actually seal the 10 tails inside of Sasuke. Now of course we don't necessarily know exactly if Naruto can actually use the 8 trigram seal. That could possibly be one of the things that Naruto did learn when Naruto was actually training to become the Hokage. But one of the other downsides to this, of course, is the fact that the 10 tails is a very humongous large being that you can't necessarily seal the whole thing inside of Sasuke. Well, I don't necessarily think that Naruto would be able to seal the whole thing inside of Sasuke. One of the things that we did understand from when Minato used the seal on Karma and seal him inside Naruto is the fact that Minato couldn't necessarily seal the whole 9 tails into Naruto, mainly because it was just so massive, it was just so strong that he just couldn't. So of course he sealed half of the 9 tails into himself and he sealed the other half inside of Naruto. Now because Naruto is stronger than Minato, I think if Naruto would actually perfect the 8 trigram seal, Naruto would then be able to even seal a full 9 tails or something even stronger than 9 tails, aka the 10 tails. I don't necessarily think he'd be able to seal the whole 10 tails into Sasuke, but of course that right there could definitely be a possibility. Now the other possibility is of course something that's very unique to Naruto, and of course this right here comes from the Sage of Six Paths. It's pretty much what the Sage of Six Paths did to the previous 10 tails. He pretty much used the creation of all things and created the 9-tailed beast. Now as of right now, no one really knows if Naruto can actually use this. What we understand is that the creation of all things jutsu pretty much comes from yin and yang chakras, 2 things that Naruto himself actually does have. Now Naruto has the tools and the capabilities to do this, we just don't necessarily know if he knows how to do it. For example, a lot of people know fire style, but that right there doesn't necessarily mean that they can use fire style fireball jutsu. But just hypothetically, if Naruto pulls this out of his back pocket, I'm pretty sure that right there wouldn't necessarily cause a huge uprising, just because of the sheer fact that Naruto himself has the tools and the abilities to actually do it. And then there was also a huge time skip between the time of the 4th Great Shinobi War to now, when Naruto was actually training and not necessarily just the Hokage. Of course, if you guys recall, as I said before, Naruto was training to become the Hokage, and not only that, he was just training to hone his overall skills. And I think if he did train his yin and yang chakra, it wouldn't necessarily be too much out of the realm of possibilities for Naruto to have actually learned creation of all things. Then of course he'd be able to create brand new tailed beasts from this 10 tails right here. This right here would definitely be a very advantageous thing to Naruto and Sasuke, just because of the sheer fact that if an Otsutsuki member then comes to this dimension and then tries to get the 10 tails, they'd have to go through that scavenger hunt of rounding up all the tailed beasts again, just like how Otsutsuki members would have have to do as of right now. And of course, if they want to take it even further, then they can actually create brand new Jinchurikis from those Teletubbies and seal them into other characters, even other Jonins, just to make those Jonins even stronger. But of course, this right here is just a very big hypothetical. I do want to know what you guys think about this in the comment section below. Do you guys think that this right here could actually be possible? And of course, what's stopping Naruto and Sasuke from actually capturing the 10 tails in general? But it's me, your boy Baryon, and we out.
It's a knife.